I would like to start my presentation by clarifying that my contribution is not directly related to the topic of artistic emigration. In fact, I will only briefly address emigration. Thank you. Emigration toward the end of my talk. Instead, my focus will be on the genre of exhibitions. On the one hand, exhibitions were a prominent feature of urban life in the 20th century. On the other hand, the practice and development of exhibitions during the interwar period were strongly influenced by avant-garde artists and modern trends. This influence can be seen, for example, in the rise and spread of modern media, as well as the use of photo montages and photo murals in exhibitions. Moreover, there was a growing perspective that the creation of an exhibition could be viewed as a comprehensive artistic achievement in itself. In my research, I'm particularly interested in the evolution of exhibitions in the 20th century, especially in the context of understanding and contextualizing Hungarian state propaganda under the Horthy regime, which spanned from 1920 to 1944. This regime was based on a Christian nationalist ideology that advocated for the protection of traditional values, religion, primarily Catholic, and national identity. Following the Treaty of Trianon, which was signed in 1920, and it was a peace agreement that significantly reduced Hungary's territory, stripping it of 2/3 of its land and population after the First World War. So following of the Treaty of Trianon, the regime sought to restore Hungary's territorial integrity and strengthen national unity. At the same time, it also emphasized the glorification of the past and the maintenance of conservative values. However, during the 1930s, state propaganda began to embrace of a modern form, both in its tools and its visual presentation, adapting to a kind of modernism that aligned with its own values. This shift was not only a reflection of the global artistic and cultural currents of the time, but also an attempt to craft a national identity through visual culture. In this context, it is interesting to explore how, while many Hungarian artists were working abroad, Hungary was shaping and projecting its own image to the world through exhibitions that increasingly blended traditional and modern elements. In the 1930s and the 1940s, the Hungarian Foreign Trade Office was an important organizer of Hungary's participation in international exhibitions. The main goal of their activity was to promote Hungarian exports at fairs in economically prominent metropolises. The goods on offer, agricultural products, handicrafts, were promoted in a historical and cultural context with the aim of attracting the attention of general public. Quote, "Abroad, we must use splendid wealth of forms and colors and decorations offered by the Hungarian folk art to dress the propaganda tools of our Hungarian agricultural products in this way. Foreigners like the unique, the original, and they always stop when they see the unusual," unquoted, wrote the propaganda chief of the office in 1935. The pavilions, the interior design, the artistic decoration of the exhibitions, and the visual materials commissioned by the office were frequently and highly praised by the Hungarian press, including the main journal of modern architecture, Tér és Forma, and the magazine of the National Association of Hungarian Applied Artists, Magyar Iparművészet. These two forums broadly symbolize the duality of modernity and traditional rural visuality, concepts that strongly define the domestic artistic discourse and the image of Hungary. In Hungary's foreign policy during the interwar period, the shaping of the country's national image played a pivotal role. Following the Treaty of Trianon, cultural diplomacy emerged as a dominant approach, replacing military and economic influence. The nation's goal was to project a positive, modern, and European image, blending both progress and tradition. This was intended not only to secure acceptance from Western nations, but also to lay the groundwork for revising the loss of territories. According to Zsolt Nagy, the author of a book titled Great Expectations and Interwar Realities, Hungarian Cultural Diplomacy, Tourism aimed at mass audiences, along with visual propaganda, became a key tool in building the country's image. Within this framework, three primary regions of Hungary took on symbolic meaning, demonstrating the attempt to strike a balance between modern and traditional national values. Budapest symbolized the modern life and cosmopolitanism. The Great Hungarian Plain Alföld represented traditions and the country's eastern heritage. The countryside and Lake Balaton were modern and traditional values met. To oversee these efforts and coordinate the tourism industry, the government established a centralized tourist office, created around the same time as the Foreign Trade Office under the Ministry of Trade. Both offices shared a common objective to stimulate economic growth and enhance the image of Hungary. The collaboration between these two offices is evident in several instances. For example, the illustrative image shows part of the Hungarian exhibit at 1935 Vienna International Fair. A close look at the displays reveals the symbolic representation of the three images mentioned earlier, each depicted in decorative murals that served as backdrops for export products. These murals were designed by Ödön Szabó, the artist employee of the Foreign Trade Office. The visual propaganda activities of the tourist office are well known in the literature, primarily manifesting through posters and brochures. These works are recognized by Hungarian scholarships as outstanding examples of applied graphic design from the 1930s. But what do we know about the artists and products employed by the Foreign Trade Office? In my research, I initially set out to explore the questions: who were the artists contributing these exhibitions? What was their connection to exhibition design? And most importantly, what did these exhibitions actually look like? Since this is an unexplored area, my study has not yet reached the stage where I can fully answer these questions. Therefore, my aim is to provide a general overview of this field and its context. In my presentation, I will argue that the exhibition organized by the Foreign Trade Office were more than mere promotions of advertised products or showcases for goods. Beyond serving Hungary's economic export interests, these events also played a crucial role in visually representing the image of Hungary. By employing modern tools, deliberate propaganda, and trained artists, these exhibitions suit to the project of a positive national image and recognize the new role of exhibitions and the importance of their visuality. The exhibition activities of the Foreign Trade Office and visual propaganda in general during the interwar period is a field with a significant lack of sources. Several factors contributed to this. On one hand, the intended preservation of the objects central to this research is rare, as they are characterized as ephemeral and applied art products. On the other hand, many sources and artworks were lost or destroyed due to the historical events of the 20th century. Therefore, in this area, it is often possible to identify the organizations, events, and artists through press sources, but gaining a deeper understanding of their actual works and oeuvres is long and often unfruitful task. One key source for my study is the article of István Radnóti, the deputy head of the propaganda department of the Foreign Trade Office, and from 1938, its head. These writings have been crucial in understanding the aims and methods of export propaganda. To begin exploring the exhibitions organized by the Foreign Trade Office and the artists they employed, I turned to the two above-mentioned journals. These were the leading professional journals of the artistic fields essential to the exhibition design, applied arts, and architecture. The journal Tér és Forma was the leading modern architectural magazine, while Magyar Iparművészet represented a more traditional perspective as the official journal of the National Association of Hungarian Applied Artists. From 1934, the Foreign Trade Office and its exhibitions regularly appeared in the Magyar Iparművészet journal. This was largely due to the cooperation between the Applied Arts Association and the Foreign Trade Office, with the former assembling the collections of applied art and cottage industry exports presented at international fairs. Due to this collaboration, the journal regularly reported on international operations of the Foreign Trade Office. These reports usually consisted of simple listings and were rarely accompanied by analytical articles, photographs. Nevertheless, it is evident that the Foreign Trade Office was very active in export propaganda, organizing regular collective Hungarian exhibitions at fairs in cities such as Vienna, Milan, Berlin, and London. For the purpose of this study, I highlight only one photograph published in the journal, which depicts the graphs used by the Foreign Trade Office at exhibitions abroad. These were created by the painter Barna Basilides, who frequently worked for the office. The Foreign Trade Office was particularly proud of these graphs, which István Radnóti described as setting a new standard. They were colorful, easy to understand, figurative, and attention-grabbing. Basilides' poster-like graphs seen in the photograph conveyed the message of Hungary's agricultural export propaganda that Hungary was the healthy grocery store and pantry of Western Europe and therefore an important part of the continent. Radnóti did not only emphasize the importance of the graphs for agricultural exports, his writings reflect his recognition that fairs and product showcases had evolved beyond simply representing economic interests. They had developed into tools of state propaganda. Due to Hungary's financial limitations, Radnóti also realized that the country could not compete with the exhibition techniques of Italy or Germany. Therefore, to attract attention and offer something new, the office drew on Hungarian folk art and the culture of the rural in its visual displays. For example, decorative motifs and depicts of the folk traditions. This approach was partly a natural fit, given that the products promoted by the office originated from rural areas and agriculture. It also reinforced the image of Hungary as a nation rich in traditions, an image that was also central to tourism. Radnóti's ideas were published in Hungarian journal titled Magyar Szemle in 1935. A few months later, Magyar Szemle also featured an article by Virgil Birbauer, the editor of Tér és Forma, and a regular contributor who was an architect with experience in exhibition design. In his article titled Art of the Exhibitions, which we might translate today exhibition design, Birbauer discussed the evolution of exhibition genre in the 20th century and offered a strong critique of commerce exhibitions. He emphasized the importance of novelty, the use of clear and easily understandable visual tools, and unconventional methods of displaying products, viewing exhibitions as the result of complex artistic design work. In the following year, 1936, the Tér és Forma journal featured a Foreign Trade Office exhibition for the first time. This was considered the best pavilion at the year's Budapest International Fair. According to the magazine review, the exhibition matched the standard of international shows, being tasteful and effective. The review only named the architect who designed the facade, Antal Dezső, a professor at the School of Applied Arts. The coverage of Foreign Trade Office's exhibitions in Tér és Forma was limited to the Budapest International Fair, but from 1936 onward, the exhibitions were featured annually. The 1937 pavilion was designed by Miklós Velics, while the interior, including the graphs and decorative paintings, was designed by Ödön Szabó. Velics was an architecture trained at the Hungarian School of Applied Arts and also in Vienna. In the 1930s, he opened his own studio in Budapest. The figure of Ödön Szabó is the least known in this research, but his name has appeared in connection with the Foreign Trade Office's propaganda activities from the very beginning. He was a permanent employee of the office, and he also participated in the preparation for the 1938 exhibition, creating the graphs and photomontages. The pavilion's architect at this time was István Szabó, who in the 1930s specialized in designing exhibition pavilions and maintained his own studio. The above-mentioned István Szabó and Mikló Velic were also involved in the design of the export exhibition of Foreign Trade Office in Budapest in 1938. This exhibition was held in a conjunction with the Second World Congress of Hungarians, which addressed the topic of emigration. In Budapest, at the same place, the Vigadó, a complementary exhibition has opened. One of them was the exhibition of the World Federation of Hungarians. The federation's work focused on preserving the culture of Hungarians living abroad and nurturing the cohesion of communities outside Hungary. Here, photographs of the Hungarian diaspora were exhibited, showcasing their lives abroad and their relationship with the culture of their homeland. This was accompanied by an export exhibition of the Foreign Trade Office, whose presentation was planned with the contribution of the two architects named previously, as well as Sándor Bazilides, Emil Gádor, and Nándor Németh. Emil Gádor and Nándor Németh maintained a studio specialized to exhibition design, which was established with the state funding. Gádor was a painter, while Németh was a graphic artist also interested in filmmaking. Their names are associated with several propaganda exhibitions of the era beyond the commissioning activities of the Foreign Trade Office. For example, the anti-Bolshevik exhibition in Budapest, organized in 1941. A very few images of the 1938 Budapest Export Exhibition are found. From descriptions, we know that it was divided into 4 rooms, one of which screened films produced by the Foreign Trade Office. Since 1936, the office had its own film production company. These films focused on the main themes of Hungary's economic exports and were regularly shown at both domestic and international events. Descriptions also mention numerous graphs, visual aids, and photo montages. Only a few details can be identified in the available photographs. One well-known image shows a decorative map framed with folk art motifs depicting the Hungarian diaspora worldwide, with 30 million Hungarians accounted for globally. The exhibition did not address the causes of emigration in the 20th century. Instead, they emphasized the unity of Hungarians worldwide and their shared national culture. The Foreign Trade Office assigned a new role to these people. As a national duty, they were to promote and represent Hungary's economic interests and export. As a final point, I would like to summarize that the exhibitions of the Foreign Trade Office presented Hungary's image on the international stage. Shaping and conveying this national image was an important element of cultural diplomacy. The image represented at the Foreign Trade Office's exhibition was closely linked to the products being promoted for export due to the country's geographic and economic circumstances. These products primarily came from rural areas and agriculture. Consequently, traditional cultural elements such as folk art appeared in the visual representations. This approach was not only effective in attracting attention at international fairs, which were mostly held in urban settings, but it also helped to compensate for Hungary's limited financial resources in the realm of propaganda. The leaders of the Foreign Trade Office's propaganda efforts recognized the potential and importance of exhibition design, as well as the significance of folk art as a distinct national characteristic. This raises one of the most important questions for Hungary in the interwar period. What does it mean to be Hungarian, and what constitutes unique national art? The depiction of rural life and the presently brought pressing social issues to the surface. While the visual representations portrayed happiness, beauty, and cheerfulness, the social and health conditions of Hungarian villages and their inhabitants were equally urgent concerns. This issue was also evident in a propaganda exhibition held in Budapest in the mid-1930s, which drew heavily on inspiration from Italian fascist exhibitions. The subject therefore contains other complex phenomena that deserve further study. In addition, I will continue my research to learn more about the artists and their works, and I hope to gather sufficient material for a more extensive art historical analysis. Thank you for your attention.